time for another episode of Sady Says. I'm Natalie Sady, and joining me today is Alex Tonner. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did, yeah.
Founder and president of Paws for Life.
Yeah, Canine Rescue.
Thank you so much for being here. This is an incredible program that I want everybody to know about. So before we get into it, what is Paws for Life?
Paws for Life is a non-profit dog rescue that runs programs throughout Southern California and Northern California within the prison system.
And so it's all rescue dogs that are going in?
Yeah, we take dogs from overpopulated shelters and normally the dogs that are overlooked that need some kind of training, and we put them into our prison programs.
And how do you even start a program like
so
this?
we started this program because we had a volunteer that was a lawyer and went into the prison with one of our puppies to bottle feed the puppy while she had it. And the warden and the captain at the time approached her and said, can we start a dog program? And we were in there 3 weeks later, working on a program that we could set up in the prison system.
Wow, you don't hear about the wardens generally wanting to reward prisoners like that.
Yeah, so it's a very progressive program and a rehabilitative program. So this program is one of the best programs throughout California because we've had the most commutations of people that are serving life without the possibility of parole.
So, okay, with the prisoners, because this is looking back at my history in how I thought about prisoners, sentences, all of that. 20 years ago, I was very black and white. You did the time, you knew what the risks were, you deserved to do the time. About 10 years ago, because of a case that happened with some Australians in Indonesia that were killed, my whole view on all of that changed because I learnt so much about how these men had grown in the 10 years, the rehabilitation that had taken place, and I strongly disagreed with them being killed. Now, moving forward, because I have had a dog go through the program in Lancaster Prison, and we can touch on that in a minute, but meeting these men was one of the most profound and life-changing things that I have ever been through. And it has led to a lot of conversations in my life with people that I know where we have argued whether rehabilitation is a thing, whether these prisoners deserve the chance at rehabilitation. But a lot of them even argue that they shouldn't have dogs in the prison because it's a comfort for them. Have you come across similar sort of roadblocks?
We're always going to have those roadblocks with people, and everyone's entitled to that opinion. But the way we look at this program is where is there a law to say someone has to serve life without the possibility of parole? What does that mean? Like you die in prison. So why? It costs the taxpayer $70,000 to $120,000 a year. And these men are rehabilitated in not just with our program, but with other programs too. They're at school, they're doing bachelor's degrees, they're artists. There's so many other programs that help them get to where they're at. By the time they get to our program, they are the stellar guys on that yard. They are the top guys that we want in our program. We just don't give dogs to anyone. This is a privilege. And you have to work for this privilege, and it's an honour to be in this program. So it's a different level of inmates. And do we have people that have murdered people in the program? We do, because those crimes were committed over 25 years ago, or that person was 17 years old when they committed that crime. So it was a child.
That's right. And so how do people get selected for the program, or what is the vetting process for them to come into the Paws for Life?
So we look at people's sentences. So we don't accept anyone that's got a minimum of 2 years left on the sentence. And then we look at whether they're in school, they have to have a GED. If they don't have the GED, they have to be getting their GED. And then they also have to be in other programs. So there's lots of other self-help programs in the prison system that the community-based people bring in and teach in the prison system that not necessarily the state doesn't provide that. We provide that as a community-based program.
Right. So and how do you go into the shelter system and select those dogs?
So just like your dog. So we looked at the shelter system And we can't rescue all of these dogs. It's impossible.
There's just so many.
It's hundreds of dogs. And so what happens now with No Kill LA is that those dogs spend an extended amount of time in a kennel 24/7 without getting out. And then they go insane, and then those dogs are euthanized. So we came up with a program. Well, why can't we train these dogs for free if someone adopts that dog from the shelter?
Yes.
We'll take your dog and we'll keep him there for 6 weeks and we'll train him and we'll give you updates and you can visit him.
And what I noticed when I was in the prison was that majority of the dogs are bigger dogs. Majority of them seem to look like pits, not all of them. But these are the dogs that are being put down continuously because in LA it's so difficult to find homes for these dogs that are appropriate because there's so much apartment living. People don't have the space. People don't have the time or the inclination to train their dogs.
No. So we're giving them a choice. You get a turnkey ready dog. I mean, and pit bulls are the #1 dog in the shelter in Los Angeles, and that is sadly the dog that is going to get euthanized for, first over any other type of breed. And that's throughout the country. It's not just LA, it's throughout the country. There's a lot of great groups trying to change this, but we can't adopt our way out of the problem.
Yeah.
So
the other thing that I've noticed is a lot of these dogs that are getting put down, because I follow a lot of sites across the country, not just in LA, and they talk about these dogs, the notes say this dog was reactive and aggressive and all of this, but this is a dog that has been locked up for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. And when the rescue groups go in and interact with these dogs, they're not reactive at all.
No.
So it begs the question, how many of these dogs are being put down that
are worthy of being in a good home?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think what is helping the shelter system right now is another group called Dogs Playing for Life, which introduced play groups into the shelters. So their motto is every dog every day gets out of the kennel. And so they get 20 dogs out at one given time and they put them in a yard together. And they match which dogs should play together and which dogs are gentle and dainty and shouldn't be in the play group. And that's another way of these dogs getting out the shelter. So when we go into shelters, we look at their notes as well. We're looking at the dogs that are going to be playing with dogs, but we also take dogs that are not friendly with dogs because that dog deserves a chance as well, and it could be in an only dog home.
And sometimes I think these dogs just need the right playmate. Sometimes they don't, they just can't have one. But other times they don't understand. So I'll talk about Bumble again. He was in the shelter for just under 12 months.
Yeah.
What I finally found out after having him for a period of time was he had been found as a stray. He wasn't well. There was all sorts of medical problems. They took care of that. He was noted as being dog aggressive. He was adopted out a few months after going into the shelter, returned 3 days later. By the time I got this dog, he was so shut down, I can't even begin to sort of get into it. Day 3, he became a jerk. He was just testing boundaries. And I questioned whether he was dog aggressive. Turns out he was terrified of everything. And going through the prison program, he gained confidence. He learnt how to interact with other dogs. And I was getting emails from people within the Paws for Life team where they're telling me that my dog that had been returned because he was too dog aggressive was in a play group with 4 dogs, and I cried.
Aww.
Then I get an email telling me he was in a play group with 12 dogs. And that just melted me because the thought that he could have been euthanized because everyone went, no, too hard. He's too this, he's too that. And all he needed was some time and some love and attention. And the fact that this is happening to so many dogs, it just...
So I think with this program that we've formed where we do train these dogs for free, it's going to open the minds of the people that are running these shelters. And I think it's going to be more cost effective for them to train dogs rather than house them. It's going to be a lot cheaper on the city to train these dogs than house them all. And we have the ability, we have groups that are willing to do this, and we can do this with the dogs.
How are you funded? How do you cover the cost of all of this?
So for the shelter program, I reached out heavily to heavy hitters, asking them to fund the program. And so everyone was a bit dubious. And in the end, I got funded through CDCR, but only a fraction of what we run programs on is funded through CDCR. So we ask people to donate to our organisation because we need funding, because we run 5 different programs within the California state prison system. So we ask people to donate, and we apply for grants across with every foundation.
Sure.
And so far, the numbers, by next year, I think this shelter program, people are going to be wanting to fund us, because so far to date, we've had 23 dogs that have gone through this program in 3 months that have all been at the shelter for 8 months or longer. So now we're looking at dogs in East Valley, for example. Those dogs now that we're looking at are 6 months and under, because we've gone through all the dogs that were there.
Oh my gosh,
We've only got 1 dog left on the list of all the dogs that we went through. And they called me last week to say, there's 1 dog left on that list.
That must fill your heart.
Oh, it's exactly what I wanted. So if I could do the same with every shelter, and this doesn't just apply to people coming into a shelter who want a dog for the family. This applies to rescues too. This isn't just about us doing something. This is about getting together with other rescues and building a community where we can all work together and we can help each other. So I'm willing for any rescue, anytime, to take a dog in and train that dog for them, as long as a dog goes back into a foster home.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
So just as long as it doesn't go back into the shelter, because it breaks them down.
Yeah.
And as I have to say, so Bumble came from South LA. The facility is phenomenal. The staff are amazing, and so many of them are volunteers, and they do their best. But the shelter itself is horrible. And it's the energy. It's not anything to do with what these people are doing being bad. There are just so many dogs. I cried the whole time I was there. I don't think I made sense to the woman that was dealing with me on the day. I had to stand outside. I couldn't stand in the offices where the dogs were. Okay, so that brings us to, you also are training service dogs for veterans.
Yeah, veterans of war. So shelter dogs. So normally the service dogs are bred and raised as puppies. And so, but what we're doing, we're taking shelter dogs and we're training them, and they're becoming service dogs for veterans of war. So far we've placed 9 dogs with veterans in 2 years, and we're going to graduate another 4 dogs in April of next year. So it's pretty amazing what we're doing for the veterans.
And when I was in there picking up Bumble, the guys actually gave us some demonstrations of the things that the dogs are taught to do, and it is beyond amazing, just beyond amazing. And some of these dogs are so funny.
Yeah.
One of them just wanted to keep getting water for their person. He was being given other instructions. He's not ready to graduate yet, but he just kept going back to that fridge and was like, no, this is what you need right now. You have just launched a new program.
Yeah. So, which is called Paws for Life, which is a senior program for senior inmates with senior dogs. And so it's in Vacaville, a California medical facility, which is a prison, but it's the only prison in the state of California with a hospice. So these dogs walk to a mile along a long corridor to hospice, and they spend time with the inmates that are dying. So, and it's the most magical thing. We took a senior dog in, and the inmate lifted it on a bed of someone, and he's 32 years without touching a dog.
And this is where, going back to one of my first comments, is there is this grey area in sentencing and crimes that I think people don't always necessarily see. So I want to talk briefly about the guys in the prison. So when Bumble went into the program, I was offered the opportunity to go into the prison, to visit Bumble, to meet the guys that were caring for him and training him, and just see what they were doing with him and the work. And I jumped on that. My paperwork was filled in before Bumble even made it into the program, because I was going. An Australian girl in a maximum security American prison. It had to happen. But going in there, at no point was I scared. But I do believe there are a lot of people that won't go into the prison by choice to meet the people. They just get their dog back and they're done, and that is their choice. My dog is a puddle. He will sit to attention for a limited span of time, and then he becomes a living, breathing fur puddle. And that's amazing. But so my experience when I went into the prison, I watched all these people who had adopted their pit bulls, and they're running training drills and learning things about their dog. We discussed Bumble, but then I got to have some incredible conversations for the next couple of hours with these men that loved and cared for my dog. And I heard some phenomenal stories, and then I asked a couple of questions that weren't too personal, but it sort of opened the floodgates. And these men sat around sharing their stories. And these are stories of men getting 5 degrees while they're in prison. Some of them told me the crimes they had committed, others did not, and that was fine. But I left humbled in their presence. And that is the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about this program, that rehabilitation is a real thing. And is that your experience?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's when we bring people in, they go in to see the dogs, and then the dogs are forgotten.
Yes.
Because the highlight is to talk to these men and talk about their experience in prison. But this is what these dogs have done for these men. They're able to sit and talk to us about what they've done, because there's no program inside a prison that can teach someone to open up and express their feelings. That you can't learn that from a textbook. So the dog then gives them that tool to get in touch with their own feelings, and then also feel remorse for a crime that they've committed. Because when you don't feel, you're not going to be remorseful.
No.
So the dog is helping them move through and actually let people know, yeah, I committed this crime. It was horrific. And, I'm changing my life because of it. So.
And I think the other thing is to meet these people, to show their individual stories, and they've all had different experiences. And we talked about their lives before prison. We talked about stepping into a prison system that is so racially charged and such division, and then they step into the cell block that is essentially the Paws for Life cell block. And I am very aware of the fact that my experience on that block is very different to the experience I would have if I walked onto a different cell block within the same facility. But the humanity that was there, the depth of self-awareness is something that, to say it's mind-blowing is actually not even the right term. It was just one of the most special things that I have ever been a part of. And I couldn't look at Matthew, who was Bumble's main trainer, when I walked out the gate. He walked us to the gate, and even though we're not meant to hug, there was a quick, because there was a connection there. And also to watch my dog that I had been so terrified to let go of, only because I didn't want another human failing him, which you saw when I dropped him off to you. He left that facility like a rock star. We walked through the yard and all these people are yelling out, "Yo, is that Bumble? Is he leaving?" And Bumble's like, this is my person. It was just, I felt a camaraderie that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, or that a lot of people see, and it's just so special. So there is a PBS special that was done. Where can people see that?
So the Shelter Me special is in December on PBS. Okay. So, Shelter Me is a program that is every week on PBS. And so they've now featured us. We're the first hour long because of all the content that they got and just all the different programs and different levels of where this program is going and what it's actually doing for so many people on so many levels, that they made it into an hour long special.
I have seen the special and it is amazing, and it follows the journey of a couple of individuals as well as dogs. And I don't want to give it away for people, but it gives insight into just what massive changes the program is making, and the recognition that the government is
Yeah.
giving this program.
Yeah. So we went to the Governor Brown's house, obviously, and that was an experience in itself. So it was, you know, and he recognises this program. So, and when he was in charge, he kept seeing Paws for Life over and over again come across his desk with men that were putting in to be commuted from their sentences. So it really did make a difference, and I was like blown away that it was getting the recognition that it actually is receiving today. So
Right.
and it's not just me that's doing this; it's
No.
a whole team of people.
And it's an incredible team.
Yeah.
Because I have met so many of them, spoken with so many of them, and everyone just loves the dogs, loves the men that are a part of this program, and are so excited to be watching it grow and develop. And it is a work in progress. It is growing and it is changing as you're able to make it expand. So where can people donate?
So they can donate on our website, which is www.pawsforlifek9.org.
And we will have the Instagram handle will have been on the screen throughout the interview, so people can obviously go there. The PBS special, so you will post about that airing closer to the date in December.
In December. There's another 15 minutes of the special you haven't seen yet. So
oh, really?
Yeah.
And so that will be aired?
That will be aired in December.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I've been telling everybody about it and trying to sort of find out when they will be able to watch it.
Yeah.
I could talk to you about this program forever, but what I would like to say is thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
For the dogs, for the guys that are a part of the program. It is life-changing on so many levels.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And that's all for this episode of Sady Says. Make sure you are following Paws for Life, an organisation that is very clearly very close to my heart. I'm Natalie Sady, and this is Sady Says.